Hello, welcome everyone. So today we'll be covering CPT and more. What we'll be going over during this webinar would be CPT regulations and policies, CPT application through the ISSC, and some common questions at the very end. So hold on tight. So what is CPT? So CPT basically is a type of work authorization for F1 students that allows them to partake in off-campus work. Whether this work is paid or unpaid, it doesn't matter. But it's what matters is that it's it's an integral part to your curriculum. So that's what the CPT does. It covers, it helps you partake as an F1 student. It helps you partake in this off-campus hands-on experience. And typically the work that you are doing, well, most likely it's a requirement. The work that you're doing during your CPT authorization must always go hand in hand with your degree program, with your major. Okay. When it comes to CPT, when you're requesting this authorization, it has to be integral to your curriculum. So what do we mean by this? It means that the internship that you're partaking in, the internship practicum, what is it called, research, or anything that whatever it is that you're doing off campus, is required. It's either required for all candidates in your degree program, or it engages you in experimental learning, and that this internship will count towards your IPOS or your DARS. Or if this internship is necessary or integral for your thesis and dissertation. So these are the three qualifications we have that would make your internship integral to your degree program. So as long as you meet one of these three requirements, then that means that that experience that you're doing off campus is integral to your curriculum. Okay, eligibility requirements. So this is very important for all undergrad students. You must meet the one academic year to be eligible to apply for CPT. And then in this academic year has to be as a full-time student in the US. Now for grads, the requirement is the same. The only exception is if your degree program requires you to partake in an internship, practicum, or any type of off-campus experience, hands-on experience within the one academic year. So your degree program, for example, we have behavioral analysis, or like a lot of those degree programs that require clinicals. A lot of the times those clinicals are supposed to happen at the very beginning of a master's degree program. Those would typically have an exception for this one academic year. But if your degree program doesn't require you to do an internship within the first academic year, then you have to wait until you have fulfilled that requirement. If you were transferred to ASU and were formally in a different immigration status, that in that immigration status you were a full-time student, in-person student here in the US, then we could consider that towards your one academic year. But this is on a case-by-case basis, so it's definitely not guaranteed. Yeah. And now if you, for example, let's say that you graduated in your bachelor's and then you did post-OPT and now you're wanting to do a master's, we don't count that time in your bachelor's degree because technically there was a break in study because of your post-OPT. So then you would still have to complete one academic year in order to partake in CPT, and in order to be eligible for CPT authorization. Work opportunities. So a lot of this, because since it's your academic department who is the one that will determine whether or not the internship that you're doing is integral to your degree program, the best course of action is always to talk to them and ask them if what you're doing will qualify for the internship course that you have to enroll in. But for CPT authorization, you must obtain the job offer before you can apply for CPT authorization. This is because this job offer is going to have all your job duties and all the specific information regarding your internship, and your academic department must review this first, and then we would review it ourselves. Because by reviewing this information, that's how they would determine if this internship does meet the requirements for the internship course that you would have to enroll in. And like I said previously, it has to be related to your degree program. And then when it comes to jobs on CPT, you cannot be a 1099 type of employee, meaning that you're an independent contractor. This is not allowed because an independent contractor means that you're your own boss. And so F1 regulations do not allow this because with CPT, that means with CPT authorization, you need to have a supervisor who's going to supervise your work and ensure, that you're doing all the job duties, and it's just it's more structured. And because you're still a student, you're not supposed to be self-employed during CPT. Unpaid opportunities. So I alluded to this earlier. For CPT, a lot of people get confused and they think that because they're not getting paid, they're not required work authorization, which is not the case. As an F1 student, anything that you're doing off campus that is going to enhance, your degree program, that's connected to your degree program, or if you're getting compensation, 100% you need work authorization. If it's unpaid, if this opportunity is connected to your degree program and it's basically going to make you more marketable because you're doing hands-on of what you're learning in your degree program, you would need CPT authorization. A lot of students say, oh, I'm volunteering for, let's say, someone who's in biology, right? Who the degree program is biology or biological sciences. And they're like, oh, I'm volunteering at this hospital, but I'm not getting paid. Because technically what that student will be doing, it's enhancing what they're learning here at ASU, then they would need CPT authorization for that. And working off campus without work authorization is a violation of your studies. You have to be very careful. So anytime you see an opportunity off campus and I always recommend that you double check with us to see whether or not you need CPT authorization for it. Okay, now let's say your degree program doesn't offer an internship course that would count towards the completion of that degree program, or doesn't meet one of the requirements mentioned previously. We have pre-OPT. So pre-OPT is also another off-campus work authorization. But this one we don't give this authorization. This one is given by USCIS. Of course, we still give you an I-20 recommendation for this, but you would have to apply to USCIS for an EAD card. And it's around, I think, $300 to $400, I believe. With pre-OPT, you don't need to be enrolled in an internship course, but what you're working, does have to be connected to your degree program. And pre-OPT is not employer specific. So when we give CPT authorization, it's going to list that specific employer that your department approved. For pre-OPT, you're basically having an employment authorization document. And this document, you could work with forever for whatever employer you want. The thing is that you have to consider though is for CPT, you can work either 20 or 40 hours during the fall and the spring semester, depending on what your department allows. But when it comes to pre-OPT, you can only work up to 20 hours during the fall and the spring semester. And during breaks, you can work more than that. And then lastly, another thing that you should consider is that any time that you've used on pre-OPT will be deducted from your post-OPT time. So in total, you get 12 months of OPT. Whether you use it during your degree program, that's pre-OPT. If you use it after your degree program, that's post-OPT. So let's say you do 6 months full-time of pre-OPT, that means you will have only 6 months left of post-OPT when you complete your degree program. So that's also why a lot of students don't want to do this, because they don't want to take time from their post-OPT. Okay, some CPT policies, as I mentioned previously, you can do part-time or full-time. Part-time is 20 hours or less. Full-time is 20 hours or more a week. This is determined by your academic department. Typically during the fall and the spring semester, departments are only allow part-time CPT. But then during the summer breaks or winter breaks, they may allow you to do full-time. But this is completely up to your academic department. So your workload must come first. So a lot of the times, some departments will have a GPA requirement. So you will need to check with them to see what's the requirement to allow you to do a CPT. Because if you're not doing so good in school, they may not allow you to do full time because you have to focus on your education first. And then if you do 12 months or more full-time CPT, then you will not be eligible to apply for post-OPT after you complete your degree program. And this is very important because, some students want to do a lot of CPT, but they have to keep in mind that once they meet that 12 months of full-time CPT authorization, they cannot do post-OPT anymore. Out of state. So this is very important because as we know, there are a lot more jobs all over the US than just in Arizona. So if you are doing an internship that is out of state in person during the fall and the spring semester, just know that this is something that's very risky because during the fall and the spring semester, you are required to still maintain your on-campus presence here in Arizona. So how are you going to be attending your classes that you need to attend when your internship it's in Bellevue, Washington? So this is something you have to take into consideration. F1 regulations doesn't prohibit this, but it is risky because you have to make sure you're maintaining your own campus presence here during the semester, and in the future, if for some reason when you apply for post-OPT or other immigration applications that you submit, if USCIS wants to look into this and see how you're maintaining your in-person presence while interning in person outside of the state that's sponsoring your F1, they will ask for a lot of documentations, and this is something that it's going to be your responsibility to provide and gather and provide. Yeah, so like I alluded previously, some departments do have a GPA requirements, required courses that you must take before you do an internship. They have application deadlines, working hour caps. So it's very important that before you start job hunting for your internship, that you have a conversation with your academic advisor so that you can see what this policies may be. And that way, for example, if you can only do part-time during the fall semester, you don't want to be looking for full-time internships because then your department's not going to allow them anyways. So very important to have this conversation with your department first and then start doing the job hunting. That way you don't waste your time. For the application process, like I said, first talk with your academic department. Once they know that you're eligible, once you know you're eligible for CPT and you have all the different rules that your internship has to abide by, then I would say then you go ahead and start looking for an internship. And then once you find that internship, you're going to go ahead and contact your academic advisor and provide all the specifics of that internship that you're going to do. And then your department will allow it. And once they say, yep, this meets the internship requirements for your internship course, they will tell you what course you need to enroll in and adjacent to this internship that you're going to be partaking in. And then you will go ahead and enroll in that internship course. Keep in mind that this is probably the longest timeline in the CPT authorization process. It's, with your academic department, because they have a lot of requests and things like that. So they have a lot of things to look at to make sure that your internship is meeting their curricular requirements. So I would say, try to be as proactive as you can with your academic department so that you can make sure there's no delays in your application. So once you enroll in that internship course that your department tells you to enroll in, you will go ahead and submit the CPT I-20 form with us through your e-form portal. In this e-form, you will need to provide the contact information of your academic advisor, because once we receive this e-form, our system will automatically reach out to your academic advisor, the information to the email that you provided in the e-form. And we will ask them a series of questions to confirm that this internship is curricular. It is integral to your curriculum for your degree program. And then once your department completes their part, then the e-form comes back to us. And then that's when we start the review process. Typically, our processing time is up to 7 business days, but we might take a little less than that. But really, the part that takes the longest is when it's with your academic department. So be very proactive about that. In the e-form itself, you're required to provide your I-94. But another thing you're required to provide is the employer information sheet. So this information sheet, we use it to give you the authorization to put all the information in CBIS for you when we're issuing this authorization. We have to provide the employer's name, the address, whether or not it's remote, and then we have to provide the dates, and we have to make sure that so that's why you have to make sure that all of this stuff is filled out correctly. If this is not filled out correctly, we're going to follow up with you, which will delay your authorization. Your CPT authorization dates are very important. CPT authorizations is on a semester by semester basis. So all your authorization dates will fall within that semester in which you have enrolled in the internship course in. So very important to keep that in mind. For example, let's say if your internship starts in the spring and ends in the end of the summer semester, you will need to submit 2 separate CPT authorizations, one for the spring and one for the summer semester. Each authorization is going to have dates that fall within that semester. So that's why it's very important, to always look at those authorization dates and never go beyond them. The start date will always be no earlier than the start of the semester. And then the end date, we always provide general end dates. So if you are a continuing student, your CPT authorization end date will always be the last day of finals. If you're a graduating student, your authorization end date will always be the last day of finals. If you're a continuing student, then the end date will always be the day before the next semester starts. So for example, let's say this fall semester, let's say you submitted you requested CPT authorization for the fall semester, right? This means, and you are still continuing on to the spring, this means that your CPT end date will be the day before the spring semester starts. So let's say the spring semester starts on January 12th. This means that the end date on your CPT authorization will be January 11th. And that's general end date, but really the dates that you can actually work are always dependent on what your academic advisor sets. Something to consider is that ASU Foundations, Education at Work, Marabella, and Mullet Arena, these are not considered on-campus employment, so you will need some type of off-campus work authorization for this type of, if you're working for this employers here. Some common questions we have, can I be approved for CPT and also work on campus? This is a question we get very often, and the answer is yes. This is because on-campus work authorization, it's a separate work authorization for F1 students than CPT. So they're 2 very separate work authorizations. So essentially, let's say for the fall semester, you could work up to the 20 hours on campus, and then off campus, whatever your CPT authorization allows. But you always have to remember that you have to take into consideration that you are a student first. So you always have to prioritize your education over employment. While authorized for CPT, can you work remotely for a company located outside of the US? The answer is yes. You can, as long as you're doing this remotely, of course. So, but you will still need CPT authorization for this. So that you would still have to go through this process as well. Can you work as an independent contractor and receive a 1099 while in CPT? I mentioned this earlier in this webinar, which the answer is no, because this experience is your practical training. You have to have a trainee. Someone needs to be overseeing your work. And when you're a 1099 independent contractor, it looks like you're self-employed, so who's reviewing your work if you're self-employed? What are the options if you're not eligible for CPT? The only other option will be pre-OPT, which of course you would still need to meet the 1 academic year requirement. But you would have to apply to USCIS for this. And that is it. Please feel free to join our live sessions that way you can ask any type of questions you have. The live sessions will essentially be the same presentation, maybe in a different format, but you can ask all the questions that you have. And live, we also have a webpage, which we'll be linking it here in the description for this webinar. But yes, always feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.